On November 10th, 2022, the world tragically lost Kevin Conroy, who came to define Batman for generations of comic book fans by lending his voice to the Dark Knight in Batman the Animated Series, the New Batman Adventures, Batman Beyond, the Arkham games, and a whole bunch of DC Universe animated original movies. With a Bat career spanning 30 years, Kevin Conroy was more than just an actor playing a character. He was the voice of our childhoods, and teens, and adulthoods, and specific days of the week for those who observe Bat Monday.
A killer who only works on holidays.
And while that voice was reliably badass and awesome in every possible way,
let me my hero.
It could also be inspiring, vulnerable, even heartfelt at times. The beauty of Conroy's Batman is that he wasn't just the reason every underground spine surgeon in Gotham had a summer home on their second yacht. He was a hero who deeply cared about the people in his life, and even some of his villains. And in this episode, we're taking a look at the most touching, uplifting, and heartwarming performances from Kevin Conroy as Batman. We're talking about believing in the good in drug-peddling mobsters, not giving up on some of his oldest enemies, and giving people hope during the darkest moment in modern American history. This is CanonBall. Number 5. Batman tries to help Harley Quinn. In the episode Harley's Holiday of Batman the Animated Series, Joker's main henchwoman is released from Arkham Asylum, presumably after they received news from the future about how many beautiful women dated Pete Davidson and decided that being attracted to a weird clown isn't grounds for imprisonment in a mental hospital.
So I gotta be real with you guys. You look like clowns.
Batman is even there on the eve of her release and shakes her hand. Batman's handshake is worth like 10 Paul Hollywood handshakes.
Back off, boy!
Bats does hold on a bit too long for effect, but he does genuinely seem happy that one of his most enduring villains is finally turning over a new leaf, and he later shows that he means it. Due to a misunderstanding at a department store, a free Harley believes she's being accused of stealing a dress, so she panics and reverts back to her clown persona, in the same place that Bruce Wayne was shopping with his latest beard.
Unattached, I see.
But instead of sneaking away, cowling up, and bringing out the knife brass knuckles coated in itchy acid for an extra spicy kick of street justice, Bruce tries to resolve the situation as himself. He actually goes to Harley as Bruce Wayne and tries to calmly talk her down, realizing that she's just spiraling from fear of being sent back to Arkham. And while all he gets for his troubles is a smack on the head and a pretty hilarious line,
I'm armed.
Batman never gives up on Harley. He spends the rest of the episode trying to catch her with the full intention of helping her, because he doesn't want to ruin her chance at freedom and happiness. But then things go from bad to worse. Like, tank worse. And that's the worst possible kind of worse.
I think things are finally looking up.
After a big sky-high finale where the two fight on tops of Gotham buildings, Batman ultimately has no choice but to bring Harley back to Arkham. But even then, he makes sure she knows that he won't judge her based on one bad day. When Harley, having realized that Batman was on her side the entire time, asks why he tried to help her, he simply replies,
I know what it's like to try and rebuild a life. I had a bad day too, once.
The line won't mean that much to Harley, but audiences understand just what a personal thing that was for him to share. It's also said with just a hint of sadness, masterfully woven into the delivery by Conroy, making the line all the more powerful. In the end, Batman even gives Harley the dress that she paid for, as an ultimate sign of believing in her rehabilitation. This lovely scene is then sadly ruined when Harley kisses Bats right in front of Poison Ivy, who looks at Robin like, can you believe this shit? Yeah, good luck getting back into her good graces, Harley. It's not like you can bring her flowers and say sorry. That would only make her angrier.
What are you looking at?
Number 4. Batman remembers his two dads. The two scariest moments in the live-action Batman movies are, in ascending order, the Penguin biting that dude's nose in Batman Returns, and Val Kilmer's Batman smiling in Batman Forever. Yikes. There's just something icky about that smile. That may be because, in that scene, Batman's grinning because he just learned that he's gonna get laid with his bat cowl off. I guess there isn't anything inherently gross about the character smiling as long as he has a wholesome reason. And he has a pretty good one in the animated series episode, Beware the Grey Ghost. Alright, so in that one, a mad bomber is terrorizing Gotham using methods from an old TV show called The Grey Ghost, about a masked vigilante fighting from the shadows to protect his city, a show that young Bruce was a big fan of, dressing up as the main character and having his action figure at the ready for every episode. But there was another consistent element to his Grey Ghost watches: his dad. In most of the flashback scenes, Thomas Wayne is there when his son watches the show, once carrying him to bed after he falls asleep. But since Bruce remembers this, it means he was just pretending to be asleep so his dad would carry him. I guess Bruce Wayne learned the art of deception at a very young age.
What was that? What, are you sneaking away?
No.
Despite that bit of trickery though, it's genuinely nice to see Bruce having memories of his parents that don't end with them becoming involuntary blood donors in a filthy alley. In later scenes, where an adult Bruce is rewatching the show for clues, he looks so calm and is actually smiling because the show isn't just something he used to enjoy as a kid, it was something that he used to do with his dad. Later, when he teams up with the actor who played the Grey Ghost, the first sentence he says to him about his connection to the show is,
As a kid, I used to watch you with my father.
In Batman's mind, the show is forever linked with his dad. It's one of the precious good memories he managed to make in the few short years they had together. But there's also a more meta heartwarming moment in this episode. It turns out that the Grey Ghost was considered a cheesy, silly show, to the point that the guy behind the mask had trouble finding any other acting work after the show went off the air. Over the years, he came to hate the character.
Please, refer to me as the calculator.
But changed his tune when he saw Batman's little shrine, after coming to terms with the fact that he probably won't be leaving the Batcave without parting with a lock of his hair or a cup of something. He realized that his character inspired the guy who goes around saving the city every day from killer clowns, saying,
So it wasn't all for nothing.
but that "so it wasn't all for nothing" line gains a special meaning when you consider who voices the character, Adam West himself.
Well, time to put on my spaghetti hat.
Who played Batman in the 1960s.
Let's but inconspicuously.
The Adam West Batman show definitely and deservedly has a dedicated following now, but back in the 90s when grim dark Batman ruled with a blood-drenched fist thanks to the Tim Burton movies and Frank Miller's comics, campy Batman wasn't remembered all that fondly.
Quick! Everyone, flee for your lives!
But this episode defends the show, saying that, similarly to how the cheesy Grey Ghost gave us a dark Batman, the cheesy Adam West show helped keep the character popular until it could be rebooted with a more serious tone. The episode is essentially an ode to animated Batman's two dads, the in-universe one and the real-world one.
You mean... Precisely, Robin.
Number 3. Batman risks breaking his one rule to save Supergirl. Throughout Batman's animated history, the character was often willing to risk it all in order to save others. In the animated series episode Robin's Reckoning Part 2, he almost destroys his relationship with Robin and gets seriously injured trying to stop his sidekick from murdering the man who killed his parents. This was partially for that guy's sake as well, because, murderer or not, no one deserves to be killed by a teen wearing green tights and a red Speedo. They'd never let him live that down in hell. Mostly though, Batman worried that in his emotional state, Robin might slip and end up dead, and he admits, his voice almost breaking in another master performance by Conroy, that he just wouldn't be able to handle that.
Zuko's taken so much, caused you so much pain. I couldn't stand the thought that he might you, too.
You can also look at the scene as Batman not wanting Robin to lose his soul by becoming a murderer. That's why he spent so many years training it, so he could bring down criminals without killing them. Many years later, this would be summed up in one awesome line in the animated series Young Justice, where Batman, here voiced by Bruce Greenwood, argues with Wonder Woman about why he started training Robin when he was just 9 years old.
Robin needed to help bring the men who murdered his family to justice.
So he could turn out like you?
So that he wouldn't.
But the best take on this kind of Batman still belongs to Kevin Conroy, thanks to his performance in the DC Universe animated original movie, Superman Batman Apocalypse. To quickly recap the relevant parts, Superman's cousin, Supergirl, arrives on Earth, gets kidnapped by Darkseid, here voiced by Captain Holt from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, who then proceeds to brainwash her and turn her into a killer. But Batman isn't having any of that. Despite being initially distrustful of Supergirl, he empathized with her being a fellow orphan. And besides, she was the cousin of his best friend. He wasn't gonna let her become Darkseid's goon. So in order to save her, he goes over to the hell planet Apokolips and rigs it to explode. Cause he's freaking Batman. He can rig anything to explode.
One hellspore can turn an entire planet into a fire pit. What'll happen to Apokolips when 500 go off simultaneously?
Batman then takes a beating from Darkseid, who ultimately believes that this crazy human in a Halloween costume would actually go ahead with his threat. And he was right. Batman was totally ready to break his no-killing rule, because there was a real chance that if they couldn't break Supergirl's brainwashing, Clark would have had to kill his only living kin, and Bruce would sooner perform planet-side, killing himself in the process, than allow his friend to go through something like that. And as a bonus, he also got to make the physical manifestation of the idea of evil his bitch. That's heartwarming and badass.
You're crazy! How did you pull this off?
Number 2. Batman doesn't give up on a drug-dealing gangster. None of us were ready for the animated series episode It's Never Too Late. After the intro of Mr. Freeze in Heart of Ice and Clayface's horror origin in Feet of Clay, which ended up selling more than a few nightlights, we knew that this cartoon Batman was going to be something special. But It's Never Too Late showed us just how much the show was willing to break the mold. The episode doesn't feature a single superpowered character and is entirely a gangster story, shot like a mini Scorsese movie. The story deals with Gotham's ex-top mobster, Arnold Stromwell, being muscled out by what the show calls his younger rival, Rupert Thorne, despite Thorne looking like Stromwell's elderly barber or something. Now, for all its dark subject matter, the show is marketed mainly to kids. Another weird thing about this episode is that it straight up uses the word drugs, and says that they're one of the biggest problems facing Gotham, with Stromwell being the city's biggest supplier. But now that his criminal empire is crumbling, Batman wants him to turn himself in and testify against the mob. In a modern live-action Batman movie, his methods would probably look something like this. Kevin Conroy's Batman plays it a little differently. He never once physically threatens Stromwell, and instead tries to find the little bit of humanity left in him by showing him that his own son got addicted to his drugs.
For the record, I make candy.
But when that doesn't work, Batman pulls out the big guns. Stromwell's younger brother, Michael, who's now a priest and who lost a leg as a kid, saving a young Arnie from a train that looks like a villain in a Ghibli movie. What's beautiful about the reunion between Michael and Arnold is that Batman never interferes in it. He lets it play out on its own, while keeping all the mobsters hunting Stromwell from interrupting, and believing that, in the end, Gotham's kingpin will see the light. It shows an amazing capacity for hope, and a willingness to look for the good in all people.
I don't believe you'd give up on anyone, Father. Please be there.
It's arguably one of the most profound moments in Conroy's entire career as Batman. The clincher was the final shot of the episode, showing the Gotham Cathedral, making It's Never Too Late possibly the only cartoon that managed to talk about drugs and religion without turning into a corny, very special PSA.
Steal from your mama, lie, cheat on your homeboy.
I believe that's what science refers to as a damn miracle.
I came to you, Arnie.
Number 1. Kevin Conroy's Batman gives people hope after 9/11. Context can easily change the meaning of any phrase, like how you'd want to hear "your skin is looking very nice" from your dermatologist, but not from the guy keeping you in the hole in his basement. Similarly, while this famous Batman line doesn't exactly scream hope,
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am man.
it nonetheless brought some degree of joy to dozens of New Yorkers during a very dark time in 2001. 1 week after the 9/11 attacks, Kevin Conroy was volunteering at a food relief station in Manhattan because he was always too good for this world. In the 2013 documentary I Know That Voice, the voice of Batman recalls that during that time, a fellow volunteer recognized him and shouted to the entire place that Batman was serving their meals. This apparently happened in the middle of the night, when the atmosphere was very somber and gloomy. So the initial reaction was one guy in the back yelling bullshit. And yeah, it was probably hard for people at that moment to believe that good things could still happen to them. Kevin Conroy decided to fix that right then and there. So, standing in the kitchen, the man faced the entire dining hall and in a booming voice recited his most famous Batman line.
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman. There's this long pause and then you hear from the back of the place, holy f***, that is Batman!
Suddenly, the sadness in the room was replaced by laughter, and the people gathered in the shadow of the 9/11 attacks forgot their troubles for a few precious moments and dared to hope again. And if that's not the most Batman shit ever, I don't know what is. Kevin Conroy, we will never forget you, because you will live on forever as the greatest Batman of all time. Thanks for watching our little homage to one of our heroes. You got any Conroy stories to share or badass line deliveries you think everyone needs to hear? Jump in the comments.